Welcome back and thank you for staying with All Angles. Now, the ANC's National Elective Conference, set for next month, has intensified. Yesterday, the party's electoral committee announced 16 names on the nomination list vying for the top 6 leadership positions. Incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa will go head-to-head with former Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize. Now, let's discuss those nominations with political analyst Dr. Ebrahim Harvey. Dr. Harvey, thank you very much for your time here on ENCA. Always good to have you. Of course, yesterday we found that 2,037 branches have nominated Cyril Ramaphosa, while 916 nominated Dr. Zweli Mkhize. But do you think there should be any celebrations from the Cyril Ramaphosa camp yet? Because, I mean, I remember in 2017, Senzo Mkhunu was at 1,479 for Secretary General, and Esma Khashile had 930, but he still came out to win the position of Secretary General.
Yes, thanks, Maseko. Thank you for this opportunity and good morning to your viewers. I want to start off. Let me start off, very important. There's a very big difference between political and analysis. It's easier to do the former. It's more difficult to do the latter. You require a lot of knowledge and insights. Now, let me respond to your question. It's the biggest problem. I listened to Leanne interview Mashile this morning on Good Morning on SABC. Let me tell you, a very big problem, both of them, both the anchor and her favorite political analyst, Mashile, perpetrated was this. You cannot discuss the presidency, even the nominations, as glaring as it is between Ramaphosa and his contender, and how overwhelmingly it's clear that Ramaphosa, if he stands, will win.
Yeah.
Nobody. Peter Bruce, I watched this morning. I've been watching this space very clearly. Nobody talks about the parliamentary process that's underway at the moment. And if it leads to an impeachment, if it does, even a recommendation for impeachment, and the process has to run its course, nobody takes that into account. Maseko, if the president is found that there's a prima facie case to answer next week, at the end of next week, do you know how the political game is fundamentally altered? You're going to have blood on the floor in Nasrec. If Ramaphosa still goes ahead, despite a finding that he's got a prima facie case by this independent parliamentary panel, you're going to have blood on the floor in Nasrec. Nobody entertains that. They go on about the certain that Ramaphosa is going to win, etc., and they omit a major consideration. And that is what next week the parliamentary panel is going to conclude on. It's easy to discuss the positions. You can talk to me about it, all the other positions. But nobody has entertained this question, Maseko. What if Ramaphosa is found that he's got everything changes? And let me tell you, the other faction, you'd see real blood on the floor. If Ramaphosa, despite him being subject to an impeachment process, stands for election, I mean, do you know how the other is going to exploit this? If that finding is that he's got a prima facie case, it puts a big mark immediately on his participation and nobody talks about it, Maseko.
Yeah, and of course, you know, a lot of people, when the Parliament inquiry, you know, when that panel, that independent panel asked for an extension and was granted the extension, a lot of people were saying that this is going to give Cyril Ramaphosa the ability to participate in this December's elective conference, because Parliament will be going on recess, and therefore there won't be any discussion around whatever the report might say next week.
I won't be surprised, to be honest with you. Politics are a hell of a thing, Maseko. I won't even be surprised. I'm not pointing fingers that this was deliberate, that the parliamentary panel did not last week and they asked for an extension. I will not be surprised. And they're mindful of December, the holiday festive season, etc. I will not be surprised. I'm not pointing fingers. But, you know, one should go on, you know, just take note of that. And I noticed Leanne and Mashile this morning on Morning Live, nobody even gave 1 second of consideration to a major factor, and that is what the panel will find next week. But, you know, the big wins and rising stars here, besides the Ramaphosa, certainly, I mean, the overwhelming number of regions had nominated him. So he's winning, but not as big margin against Zweli Mkhize was, for me, evident before even this nomination results were announced. But the big winner here, very important, watch this space, Paul Mashatile. Convincing victory against Ronald Lamola and Oscar Mabani. I mean, just look, if you combine Mabuyane and Lamola,
they still don't amount to Mashatile's nominations.
In fact, his is more than double what they've got. So very clearly a rising star. And I think the other big thing really is how Stanley Matapata has come up.
Was that a surprise for you? That was my next question. Was that a surprise for you? I mean, in July, for instance, during the policy conference, he was quite vocal. You know, at some point he brought to the agenda that the NEC or the executive of the ANC should be held to account about how dismally the party performed last year. And he was quite vocal about saying that the NEC has failed the party. So were you surprised at him coming up in the position of national chair even?
No, it's precisely because of the nature of his criticisms. He's awakening to one of the deep problems in the ANC. And it's a significant indication for the delegates that, you know, they've recognized this thing. It's a very important thing. But, I mean, one has to take into account that, I mean, just look at his contenders. Masondo is well known, especially in Mantashe. I think the chickens are coming home to roost with Mantashe. How he has handled his portfolio. And it's not just the Eskom thing. You look at the Shell oil exploration gas thing, his position there and how the communities were up against him. He's taken a lot of flack in his portfolio. I'm not surprised. Look at what happened at the COSATU Congress, where they rejected him. They wouldn't allow him to speak for 2 consecutive days. A big slap in the face and political defeat for Mantashe. And likewise, very clearly, Paul Mashatile is on the rise, I can tell you very clearly. I mean, a very convincing victory. I'm not surprised also by the SG and Thuli's results, you know. We have to see it's a major position, you know. The SG is in the light of this unprecedented crisis in the ANC. The SG position to hold this organization together. But Masego, the big disappointment for was women.
Yes,
those analysts,
exactly
this is a big question, are correct, but they're not saying what is the big problem. Not only have you had 2 women contending for this deputy general secretary, but you know what? If you ask me, I would rather go for Fabi Potgieter anytime, though she does not have governmental experience. Nomvula, it just shows you how ensconced are the corruption-pointed fingered politicians in the ANC. She beats Fabi Potgieter hands down, and yet Potgieter hasn't been in government. She's got no scandalous stories of corruption. I would really have gone for her. And you know, you can see Nomvula is bound to be the Deputy Secretary General. I think it's a very sad moment, really. So one mustn't just look at the neglect of gender and women, but look at what has happened to this position of Deputy Secretary General and how the delegates went. And look what happened at when she was Water Affairs Ministry. I mean, it's very serious allegations. You know, I'm even surprised that she still stands with that massive cloud over her. And if you listen to the Zonal inquiry, she has much to answer for. But this is the ANC nominating somebody who's very tarnished with corruption, probably more than any other delegate, honestly, and person pointed to a position of authority in the new ANC elected leadership in December.
Yeah. I was going to actually ask about the fact that it seems the ANC, although diagnosing itself during policy, talking about a mixture of women and men and a generational mix as well, but we're only seeing your Ronald Lamola and probably Fikile Mbalula making it to that list. But really it's Ronald Lamola because he's still 39 years old, right? And he would have been a generational mix in terms of their policy. But it looks like they're just okay with, they've been okay with giving the Deputy Secretary General position to women, but nothing else. But let me me move on to a question about, videos coming out of other leaders of the ANC who have been found wanting, for instance, the suspended Secretary General, who are wanting to challenge a sitting president. Is that not an indictment on the ANC itself, that you have people who are found wanting, who are suspended, who still go publicly to challenge a sitting president of the party?
Yes, but Masego, be mindful when you put that question to me. Can I tell you in the final analysis? You see, that's why I say there's difference between political commentary and analysis. Ramaphosa, if you ask me for my view, is even a bigger problem than Zweli Mkhize is and why he resigned.
Especially because
the Parliamentary scandal and the range of criminal charges, please. And I know the president 50 years, and I'm still telling you, he has more to answer. That is why I want to see what the parliamentary panel comes up with next week. Then Zweli Mkhize has with that scandal that he faces. This is what don't get into. We are very superficial, He has got less thing to answer for. Ramaphosa is in the dock, in the position any sitting president in the history of this country has ever faced. Doc. How he's going to what the panel will decide next week, I don't know. But that's my answer to you. Ramaphosa is in a very serious position. I don't know what's going to come from.
You're absolutely right, Doc. And, I've just been made alert. I've been given an alert by Bradan Moyane, my colleague, who says actually Parliament is planning to debate that report on the 6th of December. And my question to you, basically, Dr. Harvey, was how it's an indictment on the ANC to have somebody who has a lot to answer to be given 2,037 branch votes while he has this dark shoulder over his head. But thank you or rather this dark cloud over his head. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Doc, this morning. That was political analyst Dr. Ebrahim Harvey.